York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
Good Tuesday morning to you. I am Gary Sutton. This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, the main street of America in York County. Mark McKenzie is here this morning looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and chipper and ready to rip.
Is it raining again?
It is, yeah. It's kind of miserable out there today a little bit, but, not in here. Not up in here. No, up in here, it's just, we're chock full, brimming with goodness and news and happiness and fun and laughter. I think. It's 60 degrees outside, by the way. It is 6:05 here on a Tuesday morning, and at least one of us is brimming with fun and laughter and all that today, and maybe not everybody. Brought to you today, by the way, by Barley Snyder Law Firm. If that weren't enough, they have offices throughout Pennsylvania and Maryland, have more than 130 attorneys ranging in a wide range of practices, provide innovative and effective representation to a wide variety of clients across the field. And they distinguish themselves by focusing on an excellent client service, a true commitment to the community, and a reputation for results. Barley Snyder Law Firm. Check them out today at barley.com to see if they can help you. Gary Sutton here again with you on a kind of a rainy Tuesday morning. And
Grizzly.
Yeah, grizzly. Not grizzly, but just drizzly kind of day. Today is National Teachers Day, and we would like to have you answer a question on our Gary Sutton Show question of the day, which is this, that who was the most powerful teacher that you ever had, the one that had the greatest influence on you? And what is the quality? The follow-up question is, what is the quality that the very best teacher has to have, in your opinion? That's our question of the day up there today, and you can feel free to get in there at Gary Sutton Show at Facebook. By the way, you can also text our show with that answer today at 833-478-4729. That's 833-478-4729. We'd like to encourage you to text in with our show, and we can go back and forth with you right away. So there are a couple of things that are going on today.
So who fulfills that for you?
I'm trying to think who.
And don't choose a parent.
Don't choose a parent.
No,
that's or your pastor.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a cheap out.
Okay.
I mean, that might be true, but it's a cheap out.
Yes.
Because both my parents were teachers, and so I could actually do that and fall legally within the realm of having this right, but I'm not going to do that. I think I had a teacher, and I always kind of come back to him for some reason. I don't know why. He was kind of nuts. He used to lock kids in closets and stuff like that. When they were, he was
back when you could.
Mr. Rank. Mr. Rank was a history teacher, and I became a history teacher. So I guess he was really, really good at teaching.
What made him good?
He had the ability to relate to you and give you a smile in moments where maybe you didn't feel like smiling, and kind of like let you know it's important, but you know what? This is not the end of the world. This moment, we'll get through it. And if you're having a problem with understanding something, I can help teach it to you. And he was. I don't know what it was about him. He also was a golfer, so I related to that as well. And he could talk a little sports with you. He could talk with you outside of just being a teacher. To me, it's always been important to be able to talk to somebody in a way where you can still keep that chasm between you and the student, and yet at the same time, you can relate to them in some way that's going to let them know that you're a human being and you're not living in a cave somewhere waiting to come out and claw something to death.
But I mean, you described it as a chasm between the two.
Well, it's probably a poor choice of words, but a divide. I always thought that there was a divide between parents and kids. I think there should. Mm-hmm. That was something my parents always taught me, my dad especially. My dad was really good at this. My father came home one day. He was a principal at Northeastern High School, and he came home one day with a whole van load of kids. and they were going up to the mountains to go fishing. And these kids were like the assortment of, how do I want to say it, Trendaragua. On a much milder level, okay? It was like,
reprobates.
Okay, crawl in here. Yeah, you're part of the crowd. Yeah, get in. And they were. I mean, it was like the worst of the worst. And they were in it. And my mother, he pulled in the driveway to pick up some stuff. And he had another teacher going on as they were like chaperones. And,
yes.
And so he pulled to get us something. My mom looked and said, "Oh my God, Chuck." She said, "You're going to get killed." He said, "Listen." He said, "When I'm sitting behind my desk," he said, "they see a principal. When I'm sitting along the stream fishing, they see a person." And he said, and they hear me then. And I thought, he was really wise that way. He had the ability to wear a suit and wear a flannel shirt and communicate to people on all kinds of levels. And one of the things that he used to do, and this has nothing to do with teaching, but he used to take sourdough bread around to people. He made up loaves of sourdough bread, and he'd take them around. But it was part of his way of communicating, and he just had a way of doing that. He was very austere. I mean, he was one who could. I mean, he could burn you with a stare. I mean, it's one of those like you're in a corner melting like butter. Okay, Dad, sorry. But on the other hand, he also had a great wisdom and a certain prescience about him, where he understood what was going to happen next. And I often thought my dad was a really great teacher, and I'm more so now that I probably appreciated when he was alive. How about you?
Well, Mr. Cristofaro was the first high school teacher, I think, that really, we had a connection of some sort,
right? And
then I felt more like an adult in relating to a teacher. I'd always felt like a kid, and it was different. But for the question that you were asking, yes. I think Mr. Esty, and he was, even though I went to a business school, he taught history.
Right.
And I took every course he taught, and it was great. He would come in one day and he would throw on a hat and a scarf. Right. I remember Russian history, and he'd just start, and then he brought it to life and made connections, explaining what was happening. It was just a great way to teach, and I couldn't wait to see what he was going to do the next day. So,
wow.
Mr. Esty, thank you. Although I didn't become a history teacher, I had considered it, and he would have been one of the reasons why. It's also National Nurses Day.
Okay.
Where would we be without nurses?
I'll tell you what. My wife is a respiratory therapist, and she's been sick for a week. She's just going back today to the hospital.
Oh, good. I'm glad she's feeling better.
She said she's really weak, but she was happy to get back out there today. But boy, I'll tell you what, nurses, really good nurses, when you're that hospital, because you're scared already. Depending on what you're in for. I mean, it's not a. You lose your humility. You become very humble there. It's the fear of the unknown.
Especially when your robe opens in the back.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was getting around to. I had a guy one day, I was in the hospital. I had to get a shot. And it was one of those spinal things. And they were really painful. Yeah, and because I was having some real back problems. And so I'm in this room getting the shot. So there you are. You're up on your hands and knees.
Oh.
And the guy, and you don't have anything on the backside. And they're getting ready to put this needle down into your spine. And you're there, and the guy walks in and goes, "Hey, I listen to you every day. How you feeling today?" And I said, "Well, my butt's up in the air." I said, "You're about to put a needle in my spine. You've just identified the fact you listen to me." And I said, "And I'm embarrassed to death." I said, "Other than that, how do you think I feel?" And the guy goes, "Well, you got a point." But there was a nurse there also who made me feel a lot better.
Yes,
there was like the time I had the heart cath, and I'm lying there on the table talking to Dr. Nicholson, who loved to talk basketball. So we're talking basketball, and he's meanwhile working this thing up into my heart, and you're lying there, and you don't have a thing on. This girl comes over, "Mr. Sutton, I had you when I was in 8th grade."
Oh, great.
Oh, great. Yeah, those are. But she was very nice. And most nurses, I think, have that ability to calm you down in a certain moment and just kind of, let you know that there's someone there that cares.
Yes, absolutely. I should have mentioned after Teacher's Day, no homework day.
Oh, good.
Used to love those days. No homework day.
I have homework every night.
It is World, well, as you should.
Yeah,
adults do that. World Asthma Day.
World Asthma Day.
So hopefully you can breathe
Well, if
clearly.
if you've been sneezing, you've been taking part, and you're part of the team.
It is National Tourist Appreciation Day, and especially in our region with Gettysburg close by. And,
Sure, the Amish country.
State capital, absolutely. So
Right.
we appreciate tourists.
Appreciate your dollars.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Now get out.
Na-
No,
and
something
something else that you mentioned.
Go ahead.
National Golf Day. Today is National
I
Golf
thought
Day.
we already had that.
You know, it's another one of those holidays that they use the word national, international.
So it's National 6-Iron Day, National
Yes,
5-Iron Day.
exactly.
Okay, right.
Yes, something like
But
that.
it's National Golf Day, and I'm supposed to play today at 9:45.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a real good National Golf Day.
9:45. Boy, we're not even going to be out of here in an
Thank you.
hour, and you're going to be boom.
Yeah.
You can playing at Regents Glen.
Forget them. Yeah, I am playing a reason.
See, there you go.
Yes, thank you.
I only know that from your commercials.
That's why I'm only 10 minutes away. So
Yeah, see, that's what I
See,
hear.
you know that.
That's what you say.
1,000 Golf Club Road right here in York. Not to do a
Food
shameless
holidays.
plug.
Food holidays today.
Yes.
It is International No Diet Day. So if you're
What the
going,
hell is that? That is-
well,
what is
if
that?
you're on a diet,
Okay.
you can break it. Today, no diet day.
According to the doctor of whom?
Well, just have some ice cream, or that's always a good choice.
If you're on a diet today, you don't want to break it. The idea of being on a diet is to be on it.
And it is National Crepe Suzette Day.
I know what the crepe, but I forget what the Suzette is. Is that kind of like a syrupy kind of thing?
I let me look it up.
I should remember that. My mother used to actually make that. And I remember crepe Suzette. Meanwhile, by the way, I'll let you know, James Sanders is going to be with us this morning, how the highest earning millennials made it to the top of their generation. He's going to be telling you that story from a piece that he's going to send us. And Tim Barker, Mental Health Month, the criminal justice system, some new insights on that, some nuances we didn't talk about last week. We have Jamie Norpell in this morning about the Fields of Honor concert coming up, featuring Justin Moore right here in our area. And then finally, Eugenia Pasquale will fly into the world of politics. That's always a buffet table that's filled. But anyway, crepe Suzettes. Let's get back to that.
I would have had the answer sooner, but it was no homework day.
No homework day.
Classic.
Good grief.
According to the internet, it is a classic French dessert of orange crepes with a buttery Grand Marnier
Yeah,
sauce.
see, I thought there was like a syrupy kind of sauce, that Grand Marnier sauce. I
Yes.
like Grand Marnier. Ooh.
I remember one time my
Can we
mother
just
made.
skip to the Grand Marnier and
crepes.
forget all the other stuff? And
It was such a special day. I don't.
crepes when they are made just right
Yes.
are incredible. And crepes when they are made just wrong are still incredible. Okay.
They are.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you can screw up a crepe from where I'm
can.
sitting, and it's still a nice pancake.
I agree.
Okay, so anyway, we'll take a break. We'll come back with more here on the Gary Sutton Show. Alcatraz, shall we reopen it? It's a great story. We'll talk about it when we get back here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from... It bursts into flames. Get it started. It's crashing terrible. Oh, my, get out of the way, please. It's bursting into flames, and it's falling on the morning fast, and all the folks between it. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 400 or 500 feet into the sky, and it's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. The smoke and the flames now, and the flame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the passengers screaming around it. I told you, I can't talk to people and friends around there.
It was on this date 88 years ago. The year was 1937, and everybody remembers the Hindenburg disaster pretty much because of that guy. They had cameras rolling, but he's become somewhat famous, although not well known as his name anyway. But Hindenburg crashing and burning, 36 people killed. And
what was his name? Like, it was at a really strange name, like Fred Holiday or something like that.
I don't remember, but I'm going to find out right now.
Get the voice. I was looking at it. It was on May 16th, 1937, and May 6th, 1937, at Lakehurst, New Jersey.
Herbert Morrison,
that was it. And you think about the reporting at that time. I mean, the guy was just so emotional, but it was incredible. I mean, this huge blimp that just had come in there. And, of course, if you ever seen the movie Hindenburg with George C. Scott in it, what they portray it as is actually somebody sabotaging it and setting off a bomb to go off at a certain time.
It was rumored.
But no one knows that for sure. But it was an incredible crash. I mean, if you've ever seen a picture of the Hindenburg, if not, go back and find some old movie reels of it somewhere, which I'm sure you can find in 2 seconds.
I mean, you thought, with planes crashing, that maybe this would be a lot safer.
Right.
But
it was not. And but it was a symbol of the Nazis. I mean, It had a huge Nazi symbol on the side. It flew all over the world as kind of I won't say a goodwill blimp, but it's one that represented Hitler's regime. And Herbert Morrison's recorded eyewitness report is still the most iconic one. And of course, out of that, one of the most iconic lines ever, "Oh, the humanity." How many of us say that today? That's still part of our lexicon today. And that came out of Herbert Morrison's description, "Oh, the humanity," as he was watching people jumping out. And it was just horrible and just a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
But it made 10 trips to the United States in 1936, by the way. After opening in the 1937 season by completing a huge single round-trip passage to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in late March. And,
interesting.
Yeah. But it was it had departed Frankfurt, Germany on the evening of May 3rd on the first of 10 round trips between Europe and the United States that were scheduled for a second year of commercial service. American Airlines had contracted with the operators of the Hindenburg to shuttle passengers from Lakehurst to Newark for connections to airplane flights. They'd be a lot better off today just bypassing Newark, because that's having a tough time right now with their airlines, if you've read anything about that. And we'll share some of that this morning a little bit later on. But one of the interesting stories, and I'm not sure this portrayal of it is correct, but President Donald Trump, ordered the rebuilding, and eventual reopening of the infamous Alcatraz Island Federal Prison, it says in this story in the Washington Examiner. Now, I thought he had suggested it, one of his musings, that he had suggested this, but they're saying, no, it's further than that. And again, I'm going to say this guardedly because I'm not sure, because today's Tuesday and tomorrow might be Wednesday. So anyway, the federal prison, if you don't know where Alcatraz is located off the shores of San Francisco, California. And he said he is going to order the reopening of that prison to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders, quote unquote. In a Truth Social post, this is why I'm having a little bit of a question mark on it. President Trump said he directed the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, as well as the Department of Justice, FBI, and the Department of Homeland Security to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz. No longer will we tolerate, this is the president talking now, no longer will we tolerate these serial offenders who spread filth, bloodshed, and mayhem on our streets. That is why today I am directing the Bureau of Prisons together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders, quote unquote, the president said. He added that the reopening of the Alcatraz prison will be a quote unquote symbol of law, order, and justice, as the country will no longer be held hostage to criminals, thugs, and judges that are afraid to do their job, and allow us to remove criminals who came into our country illegally. Now, some of the famous people who have been in Alcatraz over the years, Alphonse Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, the Birdman of Alcatraz. But here's the rub. Alcatraz has been closed since 1963. They have 1.4 million people that go through there every year. You have to get reservations to get on the boats to get over there.
Wow.
I've been there. I was there in 1991. But it was known for its extreme seclusion as it sits atop an island.
Right.
Alcatraz is Island of the Birds, by the way. Over 1 mile from the coast of San Francisco. During its nearly 30 years of operations, no one has been recorded as having ever successfully escaped from Alcatraz, despite numerous attempts by prisoners. The closure of the prison was attributed to, check this out, the expensive cost of maintaining it,
right,
with steep daily operating costs compared to other federal prisons, along with millions of dollars needed for renovations and upkeep.
Do you think the president knows that?
I'm sure he does. The island remains a popular tourist destination and is part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, which is a national park. I think he's aware of it. I don't think he cares. The one thing we find out about President Trump with this, he is a guy that likes the big brand. This is a big brand. If you said we're going to put him in Alcatraz, it's like if you said I was going to put him in Montana area,
like a movie script.
Yeah, super serious. Yeah, but he likes the big names, the big brands, and that's where he goes. It's always the headline. And I'm not saying that rightfully or wrongly.
Right. I'm
just making an observation.
Yes.
But when you think about when you say the word Alcatraz, what do you think about this prison, this austere, terrible prison, which it is, by the way. I've been in it. And it is not, they tell me, the stories were that the worst thing for prisoners was being able to smell the fish and the Giardelli chocolate from the Giardelli plant there along the pier, and to be able to hear the noises like the cab drivers beeping. They were so close to being outside, and yet they were stuck there 1 mile away and never to get out until the end of their sentence. So you think about this. This is Trump. Draw drop time, okay? Jaw drop?
You were close.
Yes, thank you. I got my merge works. Yes, jaw drop time. So you walk in a room and Trump says, "Hey, we're going to reopen Alcatraz." You go, "Wait a second, it hasn't been open since 1963." Alcatraz, by the way, was known as it was a military outpost originally during the Civil War.
Oh, didn't know that.
And then later, you could actually, when you go there to visit, you could actually see the original vaulted kinds of tunnels and stuff they have there. And then on top of that, it was built this prison. And the prison operated just for 30 years, closed in 1963. It was really tough to operate. And, you got to be shipping stuff over there all the time.
Yeah, how long do you think it might take if they started right now? How long do you think it might take before that was built?
Well, depending on, how nice you wanted the things to be. Here's the thing. 1963, I'm thinking, all right, it's now what? 2025. All right. What do we got there? 60 years? At least 62 maybe?
Yeah.
So you say, okay, well, security now is a lot different because of the sophistication of people. Right. So I'm thinking you're going to have to do an awful lot of stuff. You're going to have to do some kind of survey of the thing and see all the different stuff on it and see what it has. It's built out of rock.
Right.
They used to call it the Island of the Birds, by the way. They said the birds were your greatest alarm system because if anybody tried to get off or get on, the birds would make all these noise.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's just one of those interesting things where, okay, on one hand you go, what are you saying? Are you kidding me? And then the other hand you go, wait a second. It was a prison, but the expense involved with it compared to what we already have sitting available around the country, probably has already openings in it. I'm just thinking from a practical standpoint.
El Salvador is out again?
Not unless we make one here, which he did talk about the other day, too, on that. Anyway, we'll take a break. We'll come back with more. I may talk more about this. Let me know what you think about reopening Alcatraz. 833-478-4729. Text me that. What do you think? Is that a good idea or a bad idea? Is it an interesting one worth pursuing? 833-478-4729. Back with more right after this. It is 6:30. Little Michael Jackson returning you to the airwaves here this morning.
1987 bumper music today.
Another incredible dance routine. And has on the white jacket, the white hat, kind of the gangster outfit.
This is back when they used to do, the video was a little TV show, little play.
It really was. Especially his. I mean, you'd sit around waiting for these things.
Yes.
They were really good.
I think they even promoted Thriller. They would tell you when it was coming up so you could stick around.
I never understood all his symbols. He had the glove, and then he had on this one he had this white suit with a black armband like mourning, and you never quite knew what all he was into. Some cases you didn't want to know what all he was into, but there you go. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show, brought to you by Barley Center. By the way, courtrooms rarely provide the preferred value to resolve lawsuits. And so, costing significant funds, resources, and time, a dragged-out courtroom trial could take weeks or months, and it takes everyone's time and money. At the same time, clients and their opposing attorneys often cannot see eye to eye in a settlement kind of discussion and need unbiased, independent help from, with the idea of seeking a solution. That's where Barley Snyder Law Firm comes in. That happy medium is there a lot, okay? Barley Snyder's team of practical yet aggressive mediators and arbitrators has helped clients achieve favorable, amicable, and cost-saving solutions that can save business relationships. And Barley's ADR professionals help solve complex matters in areas such as banking and general business, health, medical malpractice, construction, employment and labor situations, environmental, insurance, intellectual property, municipal orphans court, personal injury, real estate, tax assessment, zoning and land development. All of those are things that they get into with mediation. People like Paul Minnick there at Barley right here in York are ready to help you right now. And all you need to do is just give them a call today at 846-8888. That's 717-846-8888. They're at 100 East Market Street right here in York. And they have locations throughout central and south central Pennsylvania and even into Maryland. They are ready to help you today with complex legal needs. Go to barley.com right now and check them out. And I'll tell you what, they do a great job. 130 different attorneys in so many different areas and specialties. You'll find one that can help you, hopefully, in your situation. Again, find out if they can help you by going to barley.com today, a proud sponsor of our show.
Speaking of lawyers, let's find out what happened at day 2 of the Diddy trial.
Dozens of potential jurors were questioned by the court Monday after being told in limited terms about the racketeering and sex trafficking charges Combs faces. They were also informed that the defendant pleaded not guilty. By the end of day 1, 19 people were picked to move forward in the process. The judge wants about 45 people in the final pool before prosecution and defense lawyers begin striking down to 12 seated jurors and up to 6 alternates. Combs could face up to life in prison if he's convicted. In New York City, Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Can you imagine all those jurors?
It's
How are they going to
amazing.
do that?
I don't know. I wanted to come back to that Alcatraz thing for a second because I wanted to ask you your opinion on that. Well, it's when you hear about it, you say, well, that's crazy. And then you go, oh, wait a second. But, there's 1.4 million people that go through that a year. They have backups on boats. I got to tell you, I think I told this story a couple times. And if I did, don't stop me because I need to tell it again. I was out there. My father's best friend was the mayor of Fairfield, California. His name is Harry Price. He's still alive. But my dad passed away in 1991, and I decided to go out and visit Harry out in Fairfield, California, which, by the way, is the home of Jelly Bellies, jelly beans. And he was the mayor of that town. And I remember the guy that owned Jelly Bellies came to his house one night, which was kind of cool, meeting that guy. He wore a multicolored suit. But anyway, I'm kidding. But I'm not kidding. He was at the house, but he wasn't wearing a multicolored suit. No. So anyway, Harry said, "I'll take you on a trip to San Francisco one day. Let's go into town." So we drive about 40 miles to San Francisco, and we go in there, and we go through like Chinatown and the Italian sector, and we went to a whole bunch of places, Giardelli Chocolates, and we're going up, the crazy street that goes up there and zigzags, and he showed me all the different things across the Golden Gate Bridge. And then he said, let's take a trip out to Alcatraz, which I thought was really cool, being a history guy.
Sure.
So we got on the boat. We went out to Alcatraz. I am telling you what, Mark, I have never, ever, 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 ever been on a more secluded island amidst a gigantic metropolitan area than this. It's secluded, and yet you're surrounded by
major
first of all,
city,
big water. Yeah. But it's only a mile from the shore. It's not that far out there. But the city is right. I mean, you literally can hear people talking in time. You can hear noises. I mean, it's crazy. So I can see the torture that you're going through being an inmate there. But they haven't done anything with the place. I mean, there's rubble. There's places where like the house was that the warden stayed in and stuff like that. And there's all kinds of rubble. Of course, the Indians went out there, did a protest back in whenever it was, the 70s or 80s. And they kind of burned some stuff and beat some things down. But you go inside the original
It's not a national park or anything?
It is a national park.
Oh, it is.
But there's parts of it that are just rubble. I mean,
Okay.
now they may have fixed it up some since then. I don't know. But at that time, it was really, really rough. And that was 28 years after it closed. So, I mean, I'm not talking about, next day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so you go through these things. You go through the
metal detector?
No metal detector. No. You go through the prison, and you can actually go in and lock yourself into a cell.
Oh, great.
Close it behind you. I make sure it's not locked. Yeah, but close it behind you. What are the ones where you have the sheath that goes across super security? I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
I don't know.
But anyway, you're inside that, and you take the sheath and you put it across your cell, and it's totally black. I mean, it was like, kill me. I would sooner have that than be in this. You get claustrophobic and everything else. Anyway, we finally go to leave the island. And it's a fascinating place to go around, especially if you know a little about the history. It's Alcatraz, the island of the birds. And they said that the birds were the greatest alarm system they had because when someone tried to get off or whatever, the birds would go crazy. And so anyway, so we're getting ready. I'm on, strangely enough, we had gone out later in the day. So I'm on the last boat off the island that night. The last sightseeing boat.
The last
boat. And can you imagine missing that boat? Where you staying that night? So anyway, so we're getting on the boat, and I'm standing there like with Ranger Rick with his U.S. Park Service hat on, green outfit and all that. So I'm talking to Ranger Rick there for a second, and there's these kids. These kids are cleaning up like the pavement and stuff there, and they've got like a fire going, like a campfire. And they're doing like hot dogs on this campfire. I thought, that's pretty cool, but what's going on? So I said to him, what's that? He said, they're involved in a contest. I said, what contest is that? He said, what they do, he said, in each of the towns like this, he said, this group right here is from San Jose, California. They said each of the major, metropolitan areas, they have these projects where you can go out and you can clean up your area. And if you win, you get to come to Alcatraz. I said, that's a reward? That's a reward? Really? He said, yeah. He said, what you do is you come here and you help to clean up the island, which it helps us. He said, and you get good hands on the island. And then during the day, you clean up the island, you go around. And then at nighttime, you get to go up and pick out the cell you want to sleep in.
Oh, my.
That was the reward. I said, I'd sure hate to see the penalty.
Really?
Good grief. Yeah. So they were still on the island, staying overnight. Can you imagine having a camp? Now, for kids, you know what? I'm thinking to myself, if I was a kid back then, maybe that would have been pretty cool. But I'm not sure even then. I mean, you look up on the hill there, and it was getting dark, and you see this looming big house up there that you'd stay in that had all these cells and stuff. And I thought, no, I think I'd let the place stay dirty wherever I lived. I wouldn't be cleaning it up, but no.
Me neither.
If I did, I'd say, give me something else. I'll take the Giardelli's chocolate.
Would you have done? So you wouldn't have done that either.
You know what? I don't
Stayed
know.
overnight?
As a kid, you're kind of nuts, and maybe you do that. But it just was a frightening place. I mean, it really was. I can see where it's bad. So when you look at Charlie, I mean, he might have an idea here, but I'm just thinking realistically, all the stuff you're going to have to ship in there. The other thing is, you're putting a target right in the middle of a metropolitan area with Alcatraz, and say it's kind of like having when we had the World Trade Center, right? Not that we have to worry about that, but you're putting a target right there, and who knows now and then, what outside groups can do. I'm just saying. But then you trade off too. You say, okay, well, I'm going to put this in to house all these people, or I'm going to give up 1.4 million people a year on a tourist industry to come out there paying God knows what to ride boats for a mile to get out there to Alcatraz. As long as people are coming to see it, I'm not sure I want to give up all those bucks.
That's right.
But there you go.
True.
It's
it's a revenue maker at
there
this point.
There it is, yeah. Which in California right now is something that they really need.
So this second grader from Kentucky could be, if that prison was reopened, could be the first resident. Because a woman in Kentucky says that her second grader ordered 30 cases of dum-dums. You ever have a dum-dum?
Oh, yeah.
Little
I saw that, yeah.
Little lollipops. That's more than 70,000 suckers. At first, Amazon wouldn't take them back. They ultimately did refund her money. But here is Holly LaFavors talking about the massive order made by her son.
I just panicked. And then when I saw what the number was, I just about fainted. This was just a fluke thing that happened. He told me that he wanted to have a carnival, and he was ordering the dum-dums as prizes for his carnival. So, again, he was being friendly. He was being kind to his friends.
70,000, more than that.
Gosh.
Yes.
Well, on a local level, I see Janelle Stelson, the former WGAL newscaster, is planning to run again in Pennsylvania's 10th congressional district. She ran against Scott Perry last time, and she's planning on running against him again this time. The seat is currently held by Congressman Perry. And according to the AP, the Associated Press, Stelson, a former news anchor of WGAL, is expected to start another campaign in July. Perry serves on the U.S. Committees on Transportation, Infrastructure, Foreign Affairs, Oversight and Accountability, and Intelligence. And, of course, the 10th Congressional District is made up of the townships of Cook, Dickinson, East Pennsboro, Hampden, Lower Allen, Lower Frankford, Middlesex, Monroe, North Middleton, North Newton. I go through all of them, but I'm not going to.
How many are there?
There's a lot. They have parts of York County, parts of Cumberland County, the boroughs of Dillsburg, Dover, Franklintown, Goldsboro, Carroll County, Conewaga, Dover, East Manchester, or Carroll Township, Conewaga, Dover, East Manchester. Yeah, I mean it's a huge area now, which was expanded a few years ago to include Harrisburg, which changed the whole makeup, in fact, of the district. So. Yeah. It's going to be interesting because it was a very close election this last time. Mm-hmm. She pushed Congressman Perry further than anybody has so far. So you got to think, well, she has some reason to believe she could maybe win this time. So Janelle Stelson is going to be running against Congressman Perry again in this next congressional election.
Rematch.
For the 10th congressional.
This time it's...
I guess. We'll take a break. We come back. We got a lot more coming your way here on the Gary Sutton Show, including a gas leak last night in Hanover. A scary moment there. All here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
be this way. Your job's a joke, you broke, your love life's the old way. It's like you're always stuck in second gear.
Is that 999, whatever it was,
999?
Friends, or was Friends?
That was Friends, yes.
What was the other one? That 99910 or whatever it was?
9021.
90210.
Yeah, that's right.
Whatever.
That was Beverly Hills.
But Friends, another show I never watched.
You never watched Friends?
Never watched Friends. I'm such a loser when it comes to watching shows. And I know you're surprised. You're always so kind and gracious at the way you handle it. But
what's weird about the show was that, it really, if you thought about it for 2 seconds, it really didn't make a lot of sense.
No.
I mean, come on. These kids are, doing kind of an entry level, maybe a little bit above that work. There's like 6 of them. They've split 2 apartments. They've got all this room. It just.
They never really go to work. They're just too busy enacting strange, stupid stuff.
It was, but see, people like those relationship kinds of shows, and it worked for that audience.
Yeah.
And the reason I played that is because 21 years ago today, 2004, the final episode of Friends aired on NBC, and we were talking earlier, maybe earlier this month or late last month, about how Bonanza.
Right.
No, I'm sorry. Gunsmoke was the longest running produced scripted show.
Correct. Yeah.
It had it was like almost 300 episodes, I believe. And then Simpsons overtook that.
Right.
And it's still going on. But
Last
Friends,
week, in fact, when we discussed that.
Yes. And Friends actually ran for 10 years, 236 episodes. The last show had an estimated 51.1 million viewers. Wow. And you can see it every day. I want to say it's on TBS.
It is on one of those secondary channels every day. Yeah.
And they have.
And think about the number of people that had pretty good movie careers, and in some cases still are.
For some, Jennifer Aniston's got a little bit of a
She was kind of like the top of the peak there.
And she's got, what's it called, the morning show. I rather enjoyed that. She did a pretty good job with that.
She's very witty, I think.
And in that particular show, not funny. I mean, it is a serious drama, with lots of backstabbing and business, television-related stuff.
Everyday life.
Kind of.
There you go, yeah.
So... Yes.
Major gas leak in downtown Hanover yesterday.
Hear about this.
It's finally under control. Now, officials confirmed that after evacuations, but this was scary. As of 9 p.m. last night, that's the latest I have information on this, so we'll update it as it comes. Hanover area fire and rescue officials confirmed that the department had been able to clear the scene. This was in downtown Hanover, right there on the square. All evacuees are allowed to return home. Columbia Gas crews will remain on the scene completing repairs. By around 6:30 p.m. yesterday, Hanover Area Fire and Rescue Deputy Fire Chief Joe Wysocki had confirmed the fire was out and the gas leak had been shut off. He said the firefighters had then worked to ventilate multiple buildings downtown one by one, he said. Now, what was reported earlier came up around 3:13 in the afternoon, was when the first call came in, and that's according to Ted Check, public information officer, who's also a guest on our program every Friday. The emergency is affiliated with 18 Baltimore Street. The evacuation zone grew after the initial report, they said. But what was interesting, 30 apartments had to be evacuated, Mark. The area is a mix of residences and businesses right there. Columbia Gas was preparing to open up the street and go in and check it out. Chief Tony Klauscher of Hanover said they were dispatched for an outside gas leak on Exchange Place, which is an alleyway off of Baltimore Street, right there near the square. They arrived and found black smoke coming from the pavement. Not a good sign.
No.
Okay. The assumption was that there's an underground fire that burned through a gas line underground, the chief said, and then Med-Ed shut down the power to that area, but they have gotten most of the electric turned back on now. Columbia Gas
everybody's back in.
They were digging down to an adjacent gas line to try to pinch it off and see if it stops the leak. If not, I guess they had to go, find some new places that might be problems there. But it is under control now. They said most people were able to find other accommodations than the borough office. Apparently, the borough office is where some of them were staying. No injuries were reported, and the evacuation did not include McAllister Hotel, which sits right along that area as well. But they were saying a lot of evacuees were covering their faces as they left the area because of the smoke.
Sure.
Strong odor of gas filled the air in downtown Hanover. Scary time.
Yep.
And so there it is, but under control now. But that was 642 customers in the area had their power out.
Another big story in the region. Rite Aid going to be taking a second bankruptcy, apparently.
Wow. Yeah, they're
Once
struggling.
again, Rite Aid is seeking bankruptcy protection as the drugstore chain looks to sell most of its assets. The pharmacy operator said its stores will remain open as it begins Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings. The company initially filed for bankruptcy protection in October of 2023 with plans to sell parts of its business and restructure. Before the filing, the company had 2,300 stores in 17 states, and currently it has over 1,200 stores across the U.S. Pharmacy chains like Rite Aid, Walgreens, and CVS have struggled in recent years due to high debt, inflationary pressures, and increased competition from Walmart and Amazon. Hillary Barsky, Fox News.
By the way, if you didn't know it, on Saturday there was an earthquake in Omaha. No, not the real kind. It was Warren Buffett stepping down as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway at the end of 2025. Here's a guy who doesn't have any space companies, doesn't own any newspapers, but it was like, and I read an article on him in the Free Press, said the ultimate mic drop. Warren Buffett saves his best for last. It said Warren Buffett is not like other billionaires. He has no side hustles, no space company, or massive foundation. That's been among the great gifts. Lives in a fairly modest house there in Omaha, but he made the announcement in stunning fashion in the last few moments of the annual Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting. Reporters had already sent off their big scoops for the meeting. Buffett's criticism of President Trump's tariffs, which is what he was talking about. It was only after he had finished answering a bunch of questions, part of the grand tradition of the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting, that he dropped the real news on them. The man who will replace him is Greg Abel, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, one of Berkshire's principal subsidiary businesses. But he dropped it and basically said, hey, I'm done.
You know, time comes for us all. So
94 years old now is Warren Buffett, but a very, very wise man and has
good businessman.
Really good businessman over the years.
One quick final story, health news.
This is House Call for Health. Tomatoes distributed by a South Carolina-based company are being recalled over bacteria contamination concerns. The Food and Drug Administration says the Williams Farms Repack Company recalled various size weights, layered packaging, loose and trays of tomatoes sent to sellers in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. The FDA says the recall comes amid concerns the tomatoes may be contaminated with salmonella. The tomatoes were distributed between April 23rd and April 28th. For a list of sizes and lot codes, see the Food and Drug Administration recall site for Williams Farms Repack. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady.
For your
Fox
BLT,
News.
maybe just leave the T off for today and do extra B.
There you go. Coming up next, James Sanders, business blogger, with how the highest earning millennials made it to the top of their generation. And he'll tell you how they got there. All here on the Gary Sutton Show. Coming up right after news at the top of the hour. WOYK news time is 7 o'clock.
York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
Good morning and welcome to the Gary Sutton Show, hour number 2 here on WOYK. It is the main street of America and York County, brought to you today by Barley Snyder Law Firm. Barley Snyder is a strategically focused law firm representing businesses and organizations and individuals in all major areas of civil law. With over 130 attorneys, they are ready to help you today. Check them out at barley.com. Gary Sutton, Mark McKenzie with you here on a Tuesday morning. And by the way, what do you think about reopening Gitmo to put the very worst criminals in? The president suggesting that. What did I say? Gitmo? Alcatraz. We already tried to open Gitmo, and we already have that. So got to add Alcatraz. It's an idea that the president had. And, of course, drop your jaw on the table again and then think about, okay, is it a good idea or a bad idea? That's what we'd like to know from you. 833-478-4729. You can text us, and we'll text you back a thought on what you text us.
I would be for it if we would put Kevin Costner in it.
Okay. And then also our question of the day is today's National Teachers Day. Who was your best teacher ever? Moms and dads are not allowed to be in on this. Your best teacher ever that you had in school. And then what is the best quality of a teacher? The very best quality of the very best teacher that you have. See if you can remember who the teacher was who most influenced your life. That's the big one. With us this morning is James Sanders, our business blogger, who joins us here every Tuesday morning, whether he likes it or not. And good morning, James. How are you?
I didn't realize this is indentured servitude here.
You get dragged in here kicking and screaming, and we know how it goes. But, you don't come in here willingly, right? No. Actually, we love to have you aboard every Tuesday morning. You always send such interesting, insightful articles like the one today, how the highest earning millennials made it to the top of their generation. And this, just a fascinating piece. Yep. And I wanted to, pick it apart with you here a little bit. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a continuation of our conversation from last week, talking about college graduates and working hard and how they get ahead. Well, this is that next generation now, this millennial generation. And what I found interesting about it is the top 5% of earners, to get into that class, for them, you're making north of $300,000. Now, in comparison, the same age group in 1990, that was $212,000. Now, that's all adjusted for 2023 dollars. So that's a dramatic increase in a matter of a generation to continue to exceed expectations. What I found interesting about the article is it seems to land on the same spots. Tech, finance, science, things with degrees that actually contribute and do things in society. In other words, you're going to school to do something or get a serviceable degree. And that's the one thing that I found interesting. The second thing was, you saw a pullback from some of the professional services, like my profession, being an attorney or a doctor. They're still up there, but you've got tech, finance, and science continuing to rapidly contribute to society here. So, so it's a nice mark on, or a counter to the fact that, you've got this narrative that American exceptionalism is pulling back, and you've got things like, the younger generation is so depressed about, how they're going to get ahead of the prior generation or their parents' generation. Well, this is clearly a contra-indicator to that.
It's interesting. I was reading, it says the vast economic resorting has given a boost to the fields of tech and finance, which you mentioned. Both are more likely to vault millennials into their generation's top 5% of household incomes compared with baby boomers at similar ages in the 1990s, according to Wall Street Journal. But then they say these ascendant industries have gained ground on doctors and lawyers. Millennials with those jobs are less likely to make it in their generation's highest earners than the baby boomer counterparts 35 years ago, according to the journal's analysis. Many millennials find their way to check jobs drawn by the financial security that they offer. Well, that's pretty simple stuff, isn't it?
goes right back to human nature, Gary.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this many, many times, that, history has a tendency to repeat itself, and human nature has a tendency to remain the same throughout the course of it. And people are going to land on jobs or land in careers that are going to allow them to sustain or improve their life, at least here in the United States. We have one of the freest societies and one of the greatest structures to allow people to do that. And this is, again, another example of, as long as you work hard and as long as you focus in on what your skill sets are and you're contributing to society, you're going to move ahead in life. If you're going to dwell on things that are negative, or you're going to dwell on, things are moving in the opposite direction, well, then you might not be one of those top 5% of earners in society.
You were talking about the lawyer, and there was an A.J. DeBole, a young lady here, 37, went to law school after college at her parents' encouragement.
Yep.
Couldn't find work after a year of searching. She said, had I known what job prospects would be like when I got out of law school, I would never have gone, she said. And she later got a position at a telecom company, and to supplement her income, started trading. She developed an interest in the cybersecurity world and said she started reading books and watching videos on the subject during her 2-hour commute. That helped her land a tech job, paying well enough that her wife could stop working, and with her growing wealth, she could hack away at her decade-old law school loans. So, it led her a total other place there other than law when she first came out.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that, because when I came out of law school, I didn't work in the legal profession for many, many years. But it's the skill sets that you have, and if whatever profession your degree, or whatever degree is led into your profession, if that's not matching your skill sets, well, then certainly there's other options out there. But I think she's more of an anomaly than not. I really do think that, and I tell my kids that if you're going to go to college, which we all hope they do, get a degree that has a useful skill set, because that's going to help you moving forward in life.
James, we're talking with James Sanders this morning, our business blogger, and it says here in the article, narrow pathways to success mean instability in just a few industries or cities could be a roadblock for many millennials. Talk a little bit more about that, if you would.
Yeah. So what they're indicating in the survey is that millennials and these jobs that they're talking about are sitting in the common places: New York, San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago. The main metropolitan areas, and then the highest earners are coming out of the best universities, so your Ivy Leagues, or your some of your higher end state universities. But that being said, when I went through college, guess what was going on at the same time? The exact same phenomenon. That's where the jobs were. That's where the higher earners were. That's where you wanted to go. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with the fact that everything's pooling in one area. I just think that there's certain shifts in where you can make your money. And again, that's more in the tech and the finance space. More tech than anything else is pulling people away. But I think it will eventually balance out again.
Now, this generation that we call the millennials, currently 28 to 44 years old, they talk about coming of age as of the 2007-2009 recession, which hindered their early career prospects. And they're saying a few thriving industries helped some of them catch up. But despite being labeled as financially stunted, millennials have higher average net worths now than boomers and Generation X did at similar ages, adjusting for inflation. So somehow they come out of that terrible time of the recession and have turned it around, and they're making more money on the average than we did at our highest levels, right?
Oh, that was the stunning number to me, to go from $212,000 in the same dollar value to $300,000. I mean, every time I hear somebody tell me that American exceptionalism is dead, or capitalism doesn't work, or the country's going in the wrong direction, I look at these numbers and I say, I don't think so. We've got it ingrained in our culture here that kids that are coming up and the generations that are shifting over, they want to make a better place for themselves. And again, it's our system which allows that. It's capitalism which allows that to increase yourself, increase your ability to earn.
The earnings have rocketed in a few industries we talked about, but millennial software developers and financial analysts are roughly 4 times as likely to be in their generation's top earning 5% households compared with millennials overall, per the journal's analysis. They say that seems to be the big area that they go to right away, right?
It is, and when I look at what they're comparing, kind of the top earners to the bottom 5%, they're looking at jobs that are more hourly wage driven, and
right.
I think that's where we've talked about, again, kind of connecting all the dots here. That's where you're seeing AI and technology take over, and as that progresses over time, I think you're going to continue to see that. But eventually, there's going to be another bottom 5% that's bubbling up there. So.
What about groups like surgeons, doctors, people like that? They say the surgeon is making the same amount now as the guy who's programming the interface at Snapchat. So, you look at that and you say, well, why am I going through all these years in the medical profession when I could be doing something like that with a lot less time invested and a lot more time making money, right?
Well, this goes down to how are dollars working through the system. In other words, when people need care, okay, who's regulating it and how many layers of bureaucracy are sitting there? And whether you like it or not, I'm not so certain that a nationalized healthcare system promotes that type of activity. Allow for capitalism to come into play. And I'm not saying, sending off doctors and surgeons into, some type of ether where, they do practices that are completely unethical, but allow for them to compete and get closer to their patients. And ultimately you will have those surgeons or doctors continuing to make at par, if not higher than what you're seeing today.
Final thoughts this morning. What is the moral of the story here that you took away from this article, James?
The moral of the story is capitalism's not dead. When you're going to school, make sure that you're picking up skill sets when you go to college or university or trade school that are going to be usable throughout your career. And then last, work hard. Stay focused on it, because eventually it's going to pay dividends. And you can see that with this millennial generation. If you talk to them in 2008 to 2009, life wasn't exactly great, but look at where they're sitting today.
People tend to become what they think about, don't they? And sometimes there are some things out there they become that they never thought about. But if you have a whole lot of skill sets to take with you, you may be adaptable to a whole lot of different areas, and you may end up doing very, very well at the end of the day. I guess that's part of what you were saying as well. James, great article this morning. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Looking forward to talking to you next Tuesday, my friend. Have a great week.
Thanks, Jerry. Take care.
James Sanders, our business blogger, hit with us here this morning on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Fascinating stuff. And again, not that money is the only thing here, because, when you're talking about trying to have enough to take care of your family and so forth, these people are talking about being the top earners in their class, and a lot of interesting competition there as well. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more news under the radar next. This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, the main street of America and York County.
Fox Sports Update.
You had cut it to 1 3 times down the stretch until you finally won it.
Great poise with this team.
Denver Nuggets forward Aaron Gordon with TNT, the hero of Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinal series against the league-best Oklahoma City Thunder, who led Denver by 11 points with 4.5 minutes left before the Nuggets outscored the Thunder the rest of the way, 19-6.
7 seconds left. Westbrook, 5 seconds. They're down by 1. Gordon got it! Aaron Gordon with a deep shot. Williams, three-quarter court. No good. The Nuggets steal Game 1. That's a winner for Aaron Gordon. 121-119.
On TNT, Nuggets won the opener against the Thunder, whose Chet Holmgren missed 2 foul shots with under 10 seconds left, which opened the door for Denver. Nikola Jokic with 42 points and 22 rebounds. In defeat, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 33 for the Thunder, who will host Game 2 tomorrow.
In the corner, Bridges, 3, bullseye! It's a 6-point New York lead in overtime.
On TNT, not only did Mikal Bridges make that shot, he stole the basketball from the Celtics' Jaylen Brown in the waning moments of Game 1 to give the Knicks a most improbable victory, 108-105. New York trailed by 20 points in the second half. Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby each scored 29 for New York, which outscored Boston by 9 in the fourth quarter to force overtime. Boston missed a playoff record 45 three-pointers. Game 2 is tomorrow in Boston.
Time running out of Florida. Verhage across. Benoit's got it. And this one, it'll go into the books as a 5-4 Maple Leaf win in Game 1.
On Sportsnet, William Nylander scored twice in the first period and assisted on another goal. Maple Leafs beat the Panthers 5-4 in Game 1. You can listen to and follow the Fox Sports podcast at foxsports.com or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jared Max.
Get more on the Fox Sports app and foxsports.com.
And one of the biggest sports stories for today, Justin Tucker released from the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, shot.
A guy referred to as the best kicker on the planet by a lot of people, highest percentage of any kicker ever, got released. He's 35 years old. Tucker was one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history, has denied his misconduct allegations. Apparently 16 women now have come forward, massage therapists, making accusations to him. Now, we're not quite sure exactly what all these accusations have, but you got to figure they're not that great. Okay, this is not Chamber of Commerce stuff. They released him from the team, and it's amazing here when you read this, because it absolutely is not the reason. But they say they called it a tough decision based on the team's current roster. And what they forgot to
drafted a kicker.
Yeah, what they forgot to put there at the end, the current roster, which includes him and no longer will. Yeah, Tucker, 35, who has been with the team since 2012, was accused this January of inappropriate behavior during massage therapy sessions by 6 women who spoke to the Baltimore Banner.
Similar thing happened with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, thank you.
In Houston.
Yeah, and look what happened to him. He got one of the greatest contracts ever.
Right.
But
I don't know if he's going to be.
That's no. Yeah. But anyway, I was being tongue in cheek.
I
obviously.
understand.
But the news outlet reported allegations of more women the next month. They're up to 16 now. Tucker, who is one of the most accurate kickers in the NFL, has denied any wrongdoing, and he has not been charged with any crime. An NFL investigation into the allegations of misconduct continues, NBC Sports reported. The Ravens last month drafted a kicker, Tyler Loop, in the 6th round. Ravens executive vice president and general manager Eric DeCosta made no mention of the allegations in Monday's statement about Tucker's release. I want you to listen to this statement because really, this could be AI generated. I mean, I'm dead serious.
It might have been.
When you hear this, and I think so. Eric probably said, "I don't want to do this. Here, you do it." And the AI guy goes, "Oh, me again, huh?" So anyway, here's what it says. Now, listen to this. They absolutely are getting rid of him because of this. You got to, same reason the Royal Farms probably got rid of him too because of this. Is you don't need this hanging around your team. Here's what the note said from Eric DeCosta, who's the GM. Sometimes football decisions are incredibly difficult, and this is one of those instances. Considering our current roster, we have made the tough decision to release Justin Tucker. Justin created many significant and unforgettable moments in Ravens history. His reliability, focus, drive, resilience, and extraordinary talent made him one of the league's best kickers for over a decade. We're grateful for Justin's many contributions while playing for the Ravens. We certainly wish him and his family the very best in the next chapter of their lives. Huh? From Executive Vice President and General Manager Eric DeCosta. Now, you talk about talking around a subject. that was a piece of masterwork right there that AI did on that one. Because I guarantee you, Eric DaCosta did not. That is as dear occupant statement as you'd ever want to make there. You know, for a guy who was like the best kicker in football for, a lot of years, took your team to some championships. I mean, you're looking at, and that's what you get at the end. That's not
the allegations.
About it,
obviously, are there allegations. I don't think anything has been proven in court yet, but
you have the feeling that something's been proven to them behind the scenes.
Something in Deshaun Watson, this similar situation where police didn't take action in Houston, and then I guess they sort of allowed him to escape, if you will, or leave Houston for Cleveland.
Right. Well, I suppose they could have gotten into trouble, too, if they had said, hey, we're getting rid of him because of the accusations, because the person isn't until proven guilty.
Right.
Now, again, a team can get rid of you pretty much for anything, but I don't know what's in his contract with the Ravens.
But he was very high profile, so it can't just be...
And the Ravens, it's Baltimore is not the biggest of all the metropolitan communities. And so you're looking at something here where you don't necessarily need that. And Baltimore's always been a fairly clean operation, although Ray Lewis had his problems some years ago. And so and who was the guy, the running back that beat up the girl a few years ago?
Yes.
And they got rid of him. So, they said, hey, it doesn't matter how good you are here with the Ravens, see you later.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see now what happens to Tucker, because there is someone sitting out there that says, you got the best kicker around, maybe. He had a bad year last year, 73%. But for him, it was a terrible year.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He has a success rate, by the way, of 89.1% for his lifetime on field goals. He's the most accurate all time among kickers with at least 100 attempts, and did encounter some kicking problems last year during the 2024 season. So, but it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this. If there will be charges filed against him is going to be the big question, and what will happen as a result of that.
It is National Nurses Day.
Okay.
National Teachers Day.
Yeah. Who was the best teacher you ever had, and what is the best quality for a teacher that you can think of?
No Homework Day. National Golf Day.
Yes. I'll be doing my part on that.
World Asthma Day.
Yeah.
And really, thanks for that.
No problem. Yeah.
And National Tourist Appreciation Day with sound effects.
Yeah, Tourist Appreciation Day, or as...
we have a lot to welcome people here. Pennsylvania Dutch, Amish, Gettysburg. Yeah. So
York.
Yes.
We got things here in York to do now.
Food holidays today. It is International No Diet Day. So
you've been pushing this so hard with our guests.
Well, look, people, and I'm a people, like to rationalize, right?
Sure.
So if you've been dieting or trying to lose weight or control, it's what you think about. It's always in the back of your mind. Should I eat this? Should I have that? What should I have? I should make a better choice, blah, 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 blah. Well, if it's International No Diet Day, well, that's as plain as can be. That it basically means you can eat whatever you want today.
So there you go.
So use it. So if you could have anything today,
right,
not without concern for calories, that kind of thing, what would it be?
Cheesesteak.
Cheesesteak for
you?
you?
I would have a cheesesteak, yes.
I had, I would say Chinese food, and I had it for dinner last night.
Right.
So I celebrated early. It is also National Crepe Suzette Day, which is the crepes, but in like an orange.
Grand Marnier sauce. Oh, boy. That's top shelf stuff. Anyway.
That'd be good breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it'd be a good breakfast, and you wouldn't have to worry about lunch or dinner because you'd be out. All right?
It's not that much.
Oh, no, it's not that bad. Anyway, Tim Barker coming up next year, the District Attorney of York, as he joins us to talk about mental health. We started on this last week, but he's got some more insights to add to that. And the criminal justice system. What are we doing to help those with mental health problems, and how does it fit into the criminal justice system? Tim will give us a little bit of insight on that when he joins us here on the Gary Sutton Show at 7:35. We take a break. We come right back at 7:30. Time for a news update here on WOYK.